Welcome to part 2 of the fourth dimension. This section will expose you to some concept which will allow you to understand what is explained in the third part. What we will cover: time is not a dimension. The world is made of atoms. Everything vibrates at different frequency. Electrons emit light when their energy is reduced. Then energy, joule, and electron volt. And finally, the chart of the energy in function of the frequency. Time disappears when you reach the speed of light according to the relativity theory. This was proven using two planes going in opposite direction and each one of them carrying an atomic clock. You can't have a dimension that disappears when you go at a certain speed. This proves time only exists at certain speed and certain band of frequency. And as a dimension cannot disappear, time cannot be a dimension. The world is made of atoms, a very small particle composed of a nucleus and a bunch of electrons orbiting around. Due to the fact it vibrates, even if the world is mostly empty, it appears solid to our senses. If we were small enough, looking at ourselves, we were like looking at the star in the skies. Everything in this world vibrates at different frequencies. The picture of the plane looked solid to you. If you look at the propeller circle, it looks mostly empty. But then if you look at the propellers on the drone, they look more solid. This shows as the frequency increases, you need less matter to look solid. Electrons emit light. When an electron moves from some energy level to a lower one, it emits a photon, which is where the extra energy is going. A photon is basically a particle of light, and anything you see are photons hitting the retina of your eyes. Energy. It is what is increasing the level of an electron. So later, that electron can give back that energy and release a photon while doing so. Energy in the electromagnetic spectrum is defined in electron volts. 1 electron volts equal to 1.6 times 10 exponent minus 19 joule, and 1 joule equal to the energy to make 1 watt for 1 second. Here we are at the frequency spectrum. Most of it are the electromagnetic spectrum. The only thing that are not the electromagnetic spectrum are the sound and the ultrasound. They are there only to give you an idea of the frequency. The sound is going from about 10 Hz to 22 kHz, and just above that is the ultrasound. These are mechanical waves just to give you a sense of what wave is, and you can hear a low frequency going to a high frequency. But the spectrum that interests us is really the electromagnetic spectrum. Above the ultrasound, you have the AM radio. It is followed by the TV and the FM channel. It is followed by the microwave, and then it's followed by the infrared that you can sense as heat, and by an higher band of infrared. Just above that you have the visible spectrum, which is what you can see with your eye, followed by the ultraviolet, the X-rays, and the gamma rays. As you can see, what you can sense is very narrow. Basically, you can hear some sound, which are mechanical wave, and on the electromagnetic side, you can only see a very narrow band for about 400 to 700 nanometer, which is the visible light. The interesting part of this chart is the energy level. If you look at the electron volt on the electromagnetic side of it, you will see that as the wavelength gets smaller and as the frequency goes higher, the number of electron volt is increasing dramatically, providing more energy. As these include numbers that are kilo, pico, femto, atto, and you name it, and most people don't have a real knowledge of these things. On the lower bar, I turn that into dollar value. So basically, if at the highest frequency you would have energy value of 1 billion, as you go lower on frequency, you can see on the chart, you go to 100 million, 10 million, 1 million, 100,000, 10,000, 1,000, 100, 10, 1, and then 1/10, 1 cent, 1/10 of a cent, and 100th of a cent, and 1,000th of a cent. So you see this is covering quite a large spectrum. But there is no real limit on it on the right side. Basically, we only know up to that frequency at this point in time, but that doesn't mean there is not a much higher frequency available. The important thing to remember is the fact that as the frequency increases, the energy level available is also increasing. This completes section 2. Please move to section 3 to have a global view of what the fourth dimension is.